Hello to all friends out there in YouTube land. It's your good buddy Philtastic Phil here, joined by my beautiful wife and our little girl. Welcome back to the channel. We just finished X-Men 97 episode 5. And certainly a surprise. I'm going to, spoilers, just right now, spoilers. This isn't going to go up for like another week, so everybody will probably see it by then, but spoilers. They had this big event. Honey, what was the question that you just asked me?
I didn't ask that question.
Come on, just, what was the question? What was the question? Come on. There's nothing to be embarrassed. Were you doing it to... What was the question?
I didn't ask no question.
All right, well, if you're not going to say the question, can you tell me...
Why does the question matter? Just go on with
Because after everything, it was just like... I don't know. Well, okay, we'll jump back. What did you think? Before you say, I should say we are recording this. The date's released April 10th. Again, you're not going to see this for at least a week. It's because I'm trying to do 2 episode releases for each thing. But I wanted to watch it now because everybody was just saying, "Oh my God, it was so emotional. Oh my God." So I was like, all right, I have to watch it before we
emotional too.
get spoiled. Well, we'll get to that. But
yeah.
Tell me what you thought.
It was gloomy. It was a little confusing in the beginning. I didn't really know what the hell was happening until the middle of it.
What didn't you understand?
It was just a lot of back and forth and a lot of like things that were being established. So it was kind of...
Well, it was building.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was what we've already seen in the series.
Yeah.
And I thought it was done nice because I felt like for you, it was filling in some backstories that I was explaining to you. By the way, before we get into anything, I'm going to say, I know in the last video I said John Byrne instead of Chris Claremont and everything. And I forgot to put, hey, I know I messed up. So I'm saying it to you in case like, oh, what does this guy know? He messed up last time. But anyway. All right, so at what point did it make sense to you? You said at one point it started clicking.
The middle, but then
which is
the
what?
end,
Wait, what? But what specifically?
just, I don't know, everything.
What about the middle? Like, was there a particular scene or was there a particular statement?
I mean, there was a lot going on. And then the middle, I remember talking about the Nathan and all that. And
so when Scott was talking to the reporter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then towards the end, I guess that was him. Like, I don't know. This episode wasn't for me at all. I was just really confused.
Well, I explained to you before that Cable is his son from the future, even though he looks older. And I thought they did a good job of showing that, you know, when Madeline sees Cable's eyes. My little girl's smiling at me. That's why I'm smiling.
I like the backstair rogue.
Yeah. Well, that's just a sliver. Now, do you know who her technically adopted mother is?
No.
Mystique. You know, the shapeshifter?
Yeah.
Which makes her other mother, because she's got 2 mothers, Destiny. I don't know if you know her. She can see the future. And makes her brother Nightcrawler. So I thought they did a very good job of building onto the relationship between Rogue and Gambit and Magneto, at least for the show, you know, not for the comic. I really thought they did a great job of showing Genosha like Krakoa. To be honest with you, the little snippets we had seen in the previews, I thought that this was Krakoa. So when they said Genosha, I was like, okay, so they're kind of simplifying things. And it pretty much, if you've been reading the modern day X-Men books, then you know that this kind of mirrored the last, or the most recent, I should say, Hellfire Gala, you know, with some major changes. But I mean, look, it certainly had that same, you know, punch to the stomach feel. And, you know, I kind of didn't know what to expect. All I know is I saw grown men all day posting, Oh, that was hard to watch. Oh, I got misty-eyed. And you just commented on that in that final scene. Yeah, I could understand because you have to realize that as your husband, that's what I worry about.
It's a cartoon. Relax.
It taps into something very, very human. And that's why these stories, we were just talking about comics earlier today. And that's why these stories mean so much to so many people, I think, is because they tap into an underlying human emotion that we can all relate to.
You always laugh at me for crying on things.
I wasn't crying.
Really?
Really.
You're choking up now.
I'm not choking up. I'm just telling you. Well, I mean, like, really, what did you think of that?
Yeah, it was depressing. That's why I'm like, all right.
It was more shock, I think.
Yeah.
So I thought, and they did a master misdirection. I thought, okay, Magneto's done. And then, sure enough, I mean, that's pure heroic, blaze of glory. And what you don't know, because you didn't watch the original series, what he says to I think that was supposed to be Master Molder, the Tri-Sentinel. My name is Gambit, remember it? That was the first thing Gambit said in the first episode. So the first time you saw Gambit, and what is probably the last time, and I say probably because it's comics, it's a comic book TV show, he might be back.
I was going to say, do you really believe he's...
But that's the first and last thing, perfect bookends. And one detail I noticed, by the way, that they showed in the recap, and then they showed again here, when Gambit was spying on Rogue and Magneto, I guess, in the first episode, the card he dropped was the Queen of Hearts, right? Mm-hmm. And then when he's in his room playing with the cards, throwing them in the fire while he's talking to Rogue, and she says, yeah, hey, look, I'm going to take him up on his offer. What card does he throw in the fireplace? What? Queen of Hearts. Mm. So there you go. One thing I liked, there were a lot of little cameos, and some were really great to see. I really liked seeing Nightcrawler. You never really had seen, I think, the proper version of Nightcrawler, because this is the best version of Nightcrawler that there has been.
I don't agree with that.
Well, here's the thing. You don't know the main character. You didn't see X2. Your only reference to Nightcrawler, and tell me if I'm wrong, is from Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, correct? Mm-hmm. And if you remember one of the biggest criticisms I had of Dark Phoenix, I think one of the first things you said to me was, I said, look, how Nightcrawler just raged out towards that final scene.
Yeah.
That's not Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is jovial. He's lightens the mood, and none of the film versions have really touched on that. The cartoon really has, and in this episode especially, my little girl's looking at me like, she's like, oh, good, I like this, Dad. But you see a whole lot of cameos, both of old and new X-Men. They do make up some. I know Glob Herman is in here, Pixie, and I know I'm going for the heavy hitters, of course. What's the girl's name? Nature Girl, I think, the one with the horns. Again, I might be messing up the names. These are minor characters. You see Banshee, you see Emma Frost, you see Sebastian Shaw, Moira McTaggart. It really did, in my opinion, mirror Krakoa very well. And you know what? I had read something earlier today. I didn't mention this to you. That, one of the writers had said, go back and watch the first episode before you watch this, namely the whole nightmare that Jean had. And this, if you saw Madeline see that in her mind before that. This kind of mirrored that.
Yeah.
But now the only question I have that remains, well, first, I have a million questions. Where do they go from here? And I always say, I think this was the best, personally, in my opinion, the best of the episodes so far.
Really?
It's like the biggest gut punch.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that.
Cable said when he appeared, he's coming, you got to get everybody out. Did he mean that I'm going to assume that wasn't Master Mold. I'm going to assume that was the Tri-Sentinel. If you're unfamiliar, go back to Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, specifically the storyline where Genosha was destroyed. I don't know if you remember me. I was telling you about that a while ago. I was kind of shocked because that book came out, I think, right after 9/11. Like they must have printed it and then 9/11 happened, where hundreds of Sentinels just kamikaze crash right into Genosha, killing everybody on the island. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was the Tri-Sentinel. I don't know if that's who Cable was talking about. Honestly, judging by the openings, you know how I mentioned last time the opening changes each time? You saw Cable fighting Apocalypse. And for a very long time, Cable and Apocalypse were arch enemies. It was Cable's job to come back from the future to stop Apocalypse. They kind of, I think, dropped off after that, after the 2000s. That's a whole nother story. But I'm mumbling a lot, so you seem to be tepid on it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, all right, first of all, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Neutral.
Neutral? Okay. What did you like? What didn't you like?
I like the backstory of Rogue.
You did say that, sorry.
How they laid out the backstories, I guess, in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a little confusing, piecing everything together. There was a lot going on, like different, like things that were taking place. It was kind of hard to keep track, and then the ending was kind of like, all right, so this is kind of building up to that, I guess, and it was just kind of, I don't know, taking me for a loop. So,
what did you think of the Wolverine Jean Grey moment?
Yeah, that was awkward.
Well, initially when Wolverine appeared in the X-Men, he had a thing for Jean Grey, and he was hitting on her constantly, no mattering that she was at that point dating Cyclops. Mm-hmm. And in fact, in Age of Apocalypse, where you have an alternate version of Wolverine, him and Jean Grey got married. Mm-hmm. But Wolverine backed off, I think, after she got married, pretty much. After they got married, I should say. But yeah, so I guess that was a nod to that old story, and I liked his reaction, like that was you forgetting a memory or whatever. Mm-hmm. But okay, so where do you rank this among the episodes so far you've watched?
A 2.
Well, no, so like I know you weren't a fan of the episode before this, which if you missed, you could go back to the old.
I liked the very first episode.
You liked the very first one,
yeah.
And I know that you liked the third one. Mm-hmm. The fourth one, no. So do you like this more or less than the fourth one?
Less. I like the fourth one compared to this one now.
So this was the worst one in your opinion?
Yeah.
Oof. I don't know. We're going to have to see where this is going. I think they're almost midway through the season at this point. So I think the next episode, they're probably going to tie up more Storm and Forge storylines, but we will discuss that next. Again, I'm trying to put these two together, I think. So 2 episodes at a time, which means you're going to see this some point next week. Next week, presumably. Up until then, house cleaning, Road to 1K giveaway. Go ahead and comment the... What?
Yeah.
My girl just yawned. Why don't we just say hashtag Queen of Hearts, and you'll get an entry into the Road to 1K giveaway, and that'll be that. So I think my daughter wants to go back to bed or laugh. We don't quite know yet, or maybe both. But in the meantime, peace, love, and comics. Take care. Episode 6 is in the books. And, well, what did you think, honey?
Sucked.
I always knew that the space stories, I should say, have always been, at least in my opinion, hit or miss. And I think just because it's kind of hard to digest. And here I felt like they didn't give you the backstory necessary. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the original series ended with Xavier being shot by an assailant, and he was sent up to space by the Shi'ar. Those are the aliens he was hanging around with, who have advanced technology to heal him. So that's why everybody was kind of taken off when this premiered, and it made it look like Xavier died. So he's been healing in space. And there were a couple cool things in here too. You did see the Shi'ar attacking the Kree, or fighting the Kree. You saw Ronan, remember I pointed out from Guardians, and I was telling you, remember the Kree from Captain Marvel. You also, I don't know if you saw, he didn't talk. There was one of the Shi'ar soldiers. He looked human. His eyes were kind of lit up. He was wearing red and blue. That's the third Summers brother, who was missing for the longest time. But he's kind of psychotic. But I guess that's just a kind of a prologue. But yeah, I mean, the space stuff is rather dense, so it was kind of more of a quiet episode. What did you think of Storm, her story?
Her story was a little bit better than the main story that was going on, I guess. But yeah, overall, I did not like it.
I thought you might have an issue with it because it was more kind of subject matter you don't like it was a demon type of thing, like a supernatural type of thing.
I didn't like that aspect of it, but I liked it a little bit better than, like I said, the main plot.
I like that they wrapped it well, and then you had this moment of empowerment for Storm. I don't think they explained to newer people, like I know these things. You know, she doesn't follow X-Men, so she doesn't know that Storm is claustrophobic. I had to explain that, and then they kind of alluded to it a little bit later. What did you think about the choice Xavier had to make? Stay there and have his mind wiped, basically, or go back to Earth and give up Lilandra.
He had to make a tough decision.
But like on a bigger level, what did you think? Like as far as a literary, like, was it handled well?
Yeah.
What did you think about his tactic to try to convince them?
It was okay.
I mean,
that's great.
I think that's where he excels the most. Everybody knows his power is he's this super telepath, but I feel like it always gets lost that on top of that, he's a great teacher. In most cases, because usually either writers tend to say he's a great teacher or something like, but he did some really bad move, and then you have a story that doesn't make sense.
Right.
So what I thought was interesting was Xavier's presentation was interrupted with this vision of death and everything after the last episode. And we had seen also in the last episode that there was a powerful telepath that somehow affected Madeline right before she presumably died. So I'm kind of interested to see exactly who that telepath is, because and this always goes without saying, because I said it before, there's spoilers here. In the epilogue, you see Sinister is kind of behind this. Now, he's not a telepath, so I don't know who's helping him or what he's doing, but yeah, Sinister seems to be launching a plot. What did you think of the epilogue?
It's okay.
Are you familiar with Sinister?
Somewhat.
Just from what we've really kind of talked about, I guess. So, it was kind of interesting. There's a theory that on Genosha in the last episode, somebody said that they thought they saw Bastion in the crowd. I remember I told you he's like a weird kind of Sentinel type of character.
Yeah.
So I don't know why Sinister would be working with Bastion, though. I guess if you read the current X-Men titles, Sinister is working with Orcus, so there you go. And they did have Nimrod now in the opening title sequence, so maybe that does make sense. So what do you think about the direction the series is going at this point?
I don't like it.
Why?
It's just very boring. Like, this episode was even worse than the last one from last week.
Are you excited to see Xavier return to Earth to hopefully help his people, and Storm return to?
I mean, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with it, but I don't really have any hopes that I'm gonna like it.
Okay.
I was just really checked out the whole time. Like, what?
Oh yeah, space could be dry.
It was just so boring, to say the least. I'm like, really?
It
You were
is.
sleeping. You weren't even bored.
I was fighting. Yeah, because space is a little dry. That's the like I said at the beginning. Space stories with the X-Men are either hit or miss for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
This, the beginning, yeah, it was difficult. Towards the end, I thought that they tied it back a little bit better.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm excited to see where it's going. 4 more episodes left
You
for the
are?
season. Yeah.
After all of the episodes we've seen lately.
Yes. Well, look, you're gonna have Xavier return. You're gonna have Storm return, and
I thought the first 2 were good,
Mhm.
and then it went downhill from there.
You're in the minority that about the last episode. By the way, many people feel that's the best animation Marvel has put out. Period.
I beg to differ. I really
Well,
do.
opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm interested in seeing exactly what Sinister's doing because he made this sound like this was just the opening salvo. Like he's got bigger plans.
I mean, I also don't like X-Men to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know if that kind of plays a role in my opinion.
Probably.
But I'm just so bored and checked out. Especially like this episode was like unreal.
Well, I guess we're going to have to wait until next week to see what happens. Any final words?
Yeah, I'm not enjoying it so far. That's my opinion.
Peace, love, and comics.